All right, commissioners, are you ready to move forward?
Ready.
All righty. So first up, we have Kell.
There was a delay.
Oh, there you are.
Morning.
Morning.
Okay, so the first thing is the interlocal agreement with City of Shelton. So both the City of Shelton and Mason County are doing our periodic update of the comprehensive plan. The state has given both of us some money to hire consultants. Mason County is working on contracting with SCJ Alliance, and I believe the city has an RFP out and will get some consultant services as well. This interlocal agreement with the City of Shelton is so that we can bill them for some overlapping work, mostly around the housing element. We both participated in the housing needs assessment last year, and then also we have a new mandated element of the comprehensive plan regarding around climate. There's some other mandatory elements that certain jurisdictions have to do around greenhouse gas emissions, but we do not fall under that category. So it's mostly a resiliency plan. And so the county hazard mitigation plan, which was also recently been updated, that includes the City of Shelton. There's some work there. And so there's a little bit of work that is overlapping with the City of Shelton. And so we will be able to bill the city and get some reimbursement for some of the work that we'll have our consultants do. So I think this is a good agreement. It did go through legal, and Jay Hill at the City of Shelton will be bringing this to his council for approval as well.
All right. I looked through it. I'm incredibly happy to see the city and the county working together. I think, this is something that we've needed to do for years, so I'm super excited and super supportive. Commissioners?
I'm supportive of moving forward. Yeah, I am as well.
All right, good to go.
Great. See, and then the next thing I have is our monthly reporting. So as I mentioned last month, we were down staff in our permit center. We got some backlog on getting permits in for submittal. And so we're getting caught up on that. We've got Annie is just working her little butt off over here and getting up to speed, and is doing intakes now for permit submittals. She's also calling people who are out and seeing if they want to come in, get them on the schedule. And then we have Cassidy starting with us on Wednesday, which will bring us back to the 4 permit techs, and we expect to continue working on that submittal appointment issue. Otherwise, our permit turnaround time is looking at average about 45 days, and which is similar to last year's time. So little back end on a little wait on the front end, and then but a good turnaround time on the back end.
Any of these use the turn-off function for because that's different. Are
you talking about the stop clock function?
Yes.
Yeah. So folks are using both in the building planning and environmental health. They're starting to use that stop clock so we can tell like what the actual review time, and not when we're waiting for the applicants to get us additional information. So that's starting to help on when you saw outliers where it'd be like hundreds of days because we were just waiting on engineering or whatever it may be. But so that's working.
Well, it'll help with reporting on this, but it's not apples to apples compared to last year is what I'm asking.
That is true. Although, last year's reporting, I think we were looking at the outliers and taking them out, like going in and seeing like, okay, why is this so many days out? And okay, it looked like we were waiting for stuff. And, but yeah, so over time we'll start getting better information, but it's going to take us probably a year to then start being able to compare apples to apples.
And the other thing we still need to keep in mind when we're looking at these numbers is this is how many numbers once you get there. We have an appointment process. And so if I have a citizen come up to me and say, Randy, I want to build a home, there's an actual number that it's really going to take for them to get in, get seen, get done. And that's still part of the process.
Exactly. And that's what we're working through. And now that Annie is getting up to speed really quickly, and we're expecting the same with Cassidy, that won't be an issue moving forward, but we still are in a backlog right there.
Kell, how about on the inspection side? So these are permits issued. How about getting through the actual building process and getting our team out to do inspections throughout those processes? How are we doing on that side of things?
My understanding with inspections is that we are that they're typically 1 to 2. So when people call, they can get in that week or soon thereafter the following week. We do have Monday, Wednesday, Fridays in the busy areas, Tuesday, Thursdays in the less populated areas. So sometimes there's that lag there if you're. But I, as far as Josh's team goes, I haven't heard that there's any holdups or anything like that. So my understanding is that is a smooth inspection process. We're fully staffed in the inspection side and haven't had any delays there.
And then just the 46-day turnaround time for the average turnaround time, is that where you want it, or where do you want that average to be?
Average would be, once it gets over 60 days, we really want to look at what it's doing, but sometimes 60 to 90 days, but 90 days is when folks start really getting antsy about things. So 40 is good. Once it gets over 60, we start looking at, okay, what do we have a staffing issue? What happened as far as can we get back to under 60?
So what, in your opinion, what would it take to get from this 46 days down to 40?
Well, it would be staffing.
And do you feel like that's something that you can get closer to with now getting to having 4 permit techs? Or
yeah, I mean, having the more permit techs just allows more volume to come in, but then you've got the building planning and environmental health side as far as so if we're able to take more permits in, then do you have the staff on the back end for reviewing? Right now, I feel like we're staffed. Once we get Cassidy on, I feel like we're fully staffed in building planning and the permit center. If we do see volumes pick up and we're then not able to, whether on the planning side or the building side, that they're not able to keep their review times up, or, that starts increasing. And then that's where I'd want to look at adding staff, whether it's on the building or planning side. But right now, I don't think that we need additional staff.
Okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
Well, I'm not too sure how I feel about Annie and Cassidy leaving us and going over there, but I'm happy for you, that's for sure. And I'm happy that it's helping our permit time getting, getting better. So
Kell, one of the things that you were working on too, my understanding was that when we get stuff turned in, getting through that initial phase to say, do you have everything included to move this forward? In the past, sometimes we would wait to make sure that all of the check mark boxes were checked before those plans were loaded in and then provided to the different sections that Kell just talked about to start their review. And one of the things that I think Kell has been working on is as soon as we receive the plans, we're uploading those plans so that those separate divisions within planning and permitting can start their review process right away. Our concern there was, if you are waiting to get one piece back, then we have information that is available for maybe some other divisions to actually start the review. So how do we get that in there as soon as possible? And then when we're giving feedback to the applicants, we can provide them with summary lists as opposed to piecemeal, right? So turn this in, wait another 10 days. Now all of a sudden it gets loaded and pushed out to everybody. Then they start to come back with their requests for additional information too. And so it just draws that process out. So trying to coordinate and provide information as quickly as possible to those separate divisions should allow us to coordinate the feedback to our applicants so that they can walk away with a list of things to do and not just bring one thing back. Oh, now we're going to ask for something else and wait.
Right. Yeah, because there was, it's very difficult for the permit text to, tell someone, hey, you don't have a complete submittal, go away, come back when you've got it all, when, they've taken the time to come in. And so before, we'd take the submittal, even though it was incomplete, let the applicant know, like, hey, this isn't complete, we're not going to start review. But things get lost in translation, people hear what they want to hear or not. And so when we would get the full application, when they would return with their complete application and then it gets distributed, like you were saying, Mark, then you would, between building, planning, environmental health, you've got other, you're looking at more details and you might find another deficiency and people would say, hey, why didn't you tell me that 2 months ago? But it's like, well, because we told you you're not in review. So we're trying to work through a happy medium of like, okay, if you're going to submit and we're going to allow you to submit, even though it's incomplete, we're trying to get it distributed so that the folks on the back end can catch things earlier on and say, hey, I also am going to need this item. And so we're working on that. And that's the training with the permit center on just kind of like, what's acceptable as a submittal. And then when do you really need to turn people away with their items and say, you're not ready. And this isn't, like Mark, I know you went to the city for permits and they turned you away saying, hey, you don't have a complete application. And so, it's easier to do that when it's digital. So we are continuing to work on, permits being available online. So we're working on our planning permits going available online, and we've gotten some ready, but we're waiting to review with our permit center staff so that they know, because there's work that they have to do, even though when things come in online, they still have to review stuff. So we are working towards that. So it's an ongoing process that I don't ever see ending. I mean, it's just constant process improvement. So.
Well, I, for one, am excited to see the growth also, knowing that homes are being built and that people are feeling comfortable enough to come in and get their permits too. All right, commissioners, anything for Kell?
Not for me.
Another component of that, Kell, is that there's some new laws that are coming out that require us to get things done within a certain amount of time. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, and I believe that takes, I want to say that's 2024. So my goal is that we, our new it's not necessarily a new process, but just that we refine it so that we are just rolling along. And I'm not anticipating that we're not going to be able to meet the requirements of 5290.
And I'm hoping that they continue to work on those requirements and make it easier for folks to build homes so that we can work on our inventory of homes. All right. Well, I don't see anything else for you, Cal.
Nope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So we are down to Dave, Public Health.
Hey, good morning, commissioners. So we just have two items for you this morning. The first is a follow-up from Commissioner Schuette's request of last week to look at the developmental disabilities piece that's coming back to Mason County. Was able to get a hold of Thurston County and talk to a couple of folks. We have someone coming over to talk to us about this on the 11th. I did send out the sheet that's the 2022-2023 contract overview, which shows what's going out into Thurston County, what's going to Mason County. And like I said, we do have Mark Moffett coming over on the 11th of September to do a presentation. It's something that they're required to do, but through COVID, those sorts of things kind of slip through the cracks. So we're bringing that process back to making sure we have a yearly update from developmental disabilities to Mason County.
Great, commissioners, any questions for Dave?
Just appreciate you sending this over, Dave, and I'll look forward to the presentation and asking Mark some questions when he joins us.
Yeah, some of this is kind of, he's talking to me about it. Some of that's pretty detailed and really needs him to explain kind of how these things are broken out.
Yeah, I always wonder how much. I want to make sure that Mason County is getting what they are supposed to be getting, because Thurston can be greedy sometimes. So I'd like to keep an eye on them.
Well, and it's a case anytime you have a small counties next to larger counties, it tends to focus in on those larger populations.
So Mark, the last years ago, we had this type of briefing. I want to make sure that you give him a heads up that I personally don't want to hear about numbers that he's saying that are going to Mason County, because they actually happen to operate in Mason County, whatever that company is giving money to. I want to know what monies go to Mason County and what he's doing with those monies here in Mason County. A while back, I was pretty disappointed after I went and found out that all these things that he said he had listed that was doing business here, that the money was going to, was actually doing a few things here, but they weren't utilizing that money here in Mason County.
Right.
So I want to get that clarified when he comes to speak with us. What are we actually getting?
Yeah, and we talked about that. So you have exceptional foresters who obviously are here, and then there are other agencies that work in Thurston and then have tentacles or reach out into Mason County. So he will outline those for us.
Sounds good.
Okay, next we have Melissa.
Melissa, don't be yawning anymore.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have cut my camera off. Good morning.
Because I'm sitting there
listeners.
trying not to yawn.
It is contagious.
Yes.
Okay. So I briefed back in June when we were doing the Consolidated Homeless Grant contracts and the RFP that the Department of Commerce would eventually be appropriating inflationary funds. The purpose of those funds is to increase existing rent assistance programs, but Commerce has actually added that we also prioritize our homeless service providers. So for example, workforce development, being able to invest a little bit in staff training, certifications, the ability to incentivize volunteers, for the providers to be able to offer temporary inflation relief funds for all of their positions. So this would be like a tiered system for being able to get a temporary increase. And so eligibility would be limited to our current providers who are contracted through the Consolidated Homeless Grant and local document recording fees. Since the board has already approved these contracts and we've already gone through the RFP process, the plan for allocating these additional funds, which is $276,848 per year for 2 years. So this is for fiscal year 24 as well as fiscal year 25. We plan on allocating through a request for quote from our providers. So the RFQ has been attached to the briefing packet. It's been shared with the Housing and Behavioral Health Advisory Board. And we also met with the providers to incorporate their feedback into the RFQ. And they pretty much wanted to prioritize their existing staff. There's a high rate of turnover in those agencies. And that's pretty much the background at this moment. There's no requested action for the board. Just wanted to keep you updated since we now have more additional information about those funds, what the eligible uses are, who's eligible for them. And in the next few months, we would just be briefing contract amendments to allocate the funds to the different programs.
And Melissa, is there a way to prioritize our local providers?
Yes, it would be. So it would be the providers who are already providing these services. So we wouldn't do a request for applications from outside providers. Any other questions?
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, that's all I have unless you have questions.
All right, anything for Dave or his team? No. Just want to thank you guys for actively helping me in some of the issues that I'm going through as well. Not me personally, but with other committees. Yeah, so I want to thank you guys. You're awesome and definitely keepers. So that's all I have.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Oh, also, sorry, I was wrong. There's something else. So some of your staff was at the resilience run on Saturday at Turning Point. It's going to be our first annual resilience run. Wanted to thank some of your staff for being out there and running. They participated, they ran, and I truly appreciated them being there to show not only support for Turning Point, but also they represented Mason County awesomely, I guess.
Well, thank you.
We will extend that
Yep.
just now.
All right, thank you.
Make sure you have a donation jar for those of us who would like to help but will not run.
You can always go online and register, but you don't have to run.
That was the old joke. Why would I walk when I can roll?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, Mark, you're up.
All righty. Mr. Taylor, you want to talk about our park host contracts?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Hold it. There I am. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yes, good. I'd like to start with the MOU for the Mason County Historical Society. The contract's out of date. We're just asking that we'd be able to send in to you folks to get approved a new contract for 2 years. They'd like to still maintain their storage down at the Shelton Park. So that's probably the quickest one I have. So that's the MOU. As for the contracts, we're getting ready to renew our contracts for our park hosts, which are in compliance with Washington State RCW. So we're getting them together now and would like to submit them to you folks for approval. The ones that are currently due, and those are Sand Hill, if I'm not mistaken. And well, that's basically all of them that we have park hosts at. So we're getting ready to submit them to you for approval as well. Is there any questions about that?
So just real quick, so on the contracts, it says Foothills, Walker, and Oakland Bay.
Yes.
So it's those three.
Those three, yes, ma'am.
Okay, for this one.
Yes, we're trying to get them all on the same dates. So that what we're not doing is running out throughout the year trying to get contracts approved. We'd like to get them into you folks all at once. So we're adjusting those to ensure that we get them all at the same time.
That just makes more sense to me.
Excellent. Any other questions on that? All right, so the more complicated piece is we're putting training together for the county because we're getting ready at the end of the year, not fiscal year, to certify for NIMS, the National Incident Management System. To do that, we need to have a number of staff that's trained within the required fields. The interesting part about that is it's up to the jurisdiction to determine who those people are and the level they should train to. So what we are attempting to do is to get together with directors now with Mark's help and ensure that we can get the organizational chart, which I provided to you, filled out by departments, so they can pinpoint their actual key staff. And then based on what they appoint their staff positions to hold, we can then determine what training they need. What we are doing is putting the training together. Traditionally, it is, for an example, 100, 200, 700, and 800, the IS independent study, of course, are online. The ICS 300 and 400 are in the classroom, which is a total of 5 days. So we know that we don't want to shut departments down or ensure that they're short in their ability to do their job. So we're going to schedule it over a multiple week period, 1 day a week, where we can train staff. And then once they complete their training, we'll certify through the state that they've completed it. They'll get their diplomas, and we'll attempt to do that again in another cycle. So the idea here is not to take staff out of their positions for a week at a time, but to ensure that we can get them in at least 1 day a week, which I think it's designated right now for Wednesdays, so that we can train staff on a full Wednesday. What we're asking from you folks is your help in ensuring that that becomes a priority so that we can get staff trained. And a good example of that was the McEwen fire. I had one of my staff that was on vacation, so there were actually 2 of us and Mark who were available because, of course, it was on the 4th of July exactly, and it was hard to get staff in. And if we did bring them in, the challenge we would have had was their level of training, which is what we're attempting to fix with this recommendation for your support. Are there any questions on what we just covered?
So do you need to have commissioners at that also, or would you prefer to have commissioners at those also?
Well, sometimes it's difficult because I know that you folks, all 3 of you being in the room at once, creates a challenge. I'm not sure at the beginning level of 300 and 400 that that's important for you to attend. I do believe the 1, 2, 7, and 8 though, because it goes over the system of what you're going to oversee. And if you had an opportunity to look over the org chart, you folks are at the top of the chart as well. So what we're trying to do is there are traditional positions within a county, which I've talked to Mark about, the other elected officials who traditionally don't fold under the county in emergency or disaster, but they should. And to do that, their staff need to go through the same training, and they need to understand how they can fold under, because that makes their positions fully reimbursable through FEMA. Otherwise, they're not. And those dollars are lost, even though we may use their staff, because of course, their staff are, if I'm not mistaken, under county law, still emergency responders as well. The challenge is that you have to have a functionable position within ICS to be eligible for reimbursement. So for an example, we've designated you folks under the policy group, which means your full salaries and benefits are reimbursable when we activate under a FEMA disaster, because you hold a position within the chart. The auditor's office has not yet been folded under. So all those, to include the sheriff's department, other than deputies, are outside of that structure. This training will bring them into it, and we'll sit down with them with your assistance and be able to show them how they'll fold under, still have their own autonomy, but still will be reimbursable and part of the disaster response.
Right. I love this idea. I went through it when I was with the legislature, and I was certified and went through all these classes, and they're amazing classes and so useful. And you never know when you're going to need them.
Oh, and that's the challenge we face because we all have the same constraints. We never have enough people, time, and money.
Right.
We never know when a disaster is going to occur, the type, magnitude, and who's going to show up. So it's really difficult when somebody sits down and says, okay, these are the 3 people we want to do this, when you really don't know, depending on the magnitude, whether they're even going to be able to respond. And we traditionally, based on my experience, we always have a percentage of people who show up who have no training because they didn't know that they were going to need to respond. So we're hoping to fix that part so that nobody shows up without training, because it is really cumbersome to attempt to train somebody what they call hip pocket training at the last minute in the middle of a disaster, attempting to save lives. So we're trying with this training program to circumvent that.
Right. Well, I think it's a great idea, commissioners.
Yeah, completely agree. I think it's good to offer the trainings, and hopefully that there's that outreach effort underway to get people to sign up for it and participate. Appreciate you doing it.
I agree. Well done.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Nope.
That's all I have.
So,
Thank you,
so
Commissioner.
just to clarify for Mackenzie, John,
Yes.
the MOU with the Historical Society, that's something will be given to Tim to review and then bring it before the board to approve?
Yes, I understand that is in the process.
Okay, great. As well as the contract renewals, those will go to a regular agenda.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
So the next item on the list is results of our spyglass audit report. TJ's here with me. So we contracted with an entity to come in and kind of review all of our county services where we contract with outside resources to provide things like phone lines and cell phones, and they went through a number of different functions, and they were specifically looking for items that were no longer being used, but we were still being charged for it. So through that process, they were able to identify about $39,355 worth of charges or savings that we could incur by just modifying some of our contracts or getting rid of things that we were no longer using. So that is completed. How they get paid is that they actually will get paid based on how much we actually save. And the important part of that is then monitoring those services to ensure that in the future, these charges aren't put back on or that they are really removed from the bill. I think a lot of times with large entities, these companies have an opportunity to sneak stuff in. You know, you don't notice $20 or $30 here, but when you do that on a monthly basis, it can obviously, as we see here, add up fairly quickly. So this is just something that we wanted to bring back to the board and let you know that here's the results of that audit. TJ's been super helpful with me on this. Him and his team have been working with them to provide him information as well as then follow through on some of the recommendations that they've given us. TJ, do you have anything else to add to that?
Just that their final recommendation was more for the future. That we may see some price increases on our analog lines coming in the future. That would be, we have roughly 46 incoming phone lines at a time. The phone companies are pushing to go to a full VoIP internet-based system, and in order to do that, they're slowly increasing the prices on stuff. We haven't seen a bump in ours yet, but Spyglass warned us that they would fully expect us over the next couple of years to start seeing a rapid increase. So at that time, we'll have to evaluate and move over to a different service if we decide to do so. At this time, I don't think VoIP is a good solution for us just yet. Hopefully the service matures by the time we actually need to eat it, and it'll be ready for us.
All right. I like to see the savings. 39,000. That's
Yeah, that's pretty good. And a big portion of it, they were able to negotiate our Verizon bill to get us a better price, and then along with just trimming things back. So it definitely was a good thing.
Of course, your commissioners, any questions or comments?
That's quite a bit of money.
It starts to add up to real dollars, and that's appreciate your management of that, TJ, and working with them to get that taken care of. It's good.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so is this something that will go on the this will go on the agenda, right? To be approved.
You would see it and it would be included in some of the vouchers that the commissioners approve. So there's nothing specific in terms of information that we bring forward to a regular meeting in order to have the board approve it. This is just an update on some of those services that we were able to revise or get rid of cell phones that were no longer being utilized, but we're still being charged for. So this is really just an informational meeting.
Perfect.
We do bring things before the board, and we did, I don't know if y'all remember, but we did talk about it, and it may not have been in a official action, but just talking about the different analog lines that we have sent up and whether we need them and how many ports are available on each one of those lines. And so we had to make some decisions whether we wanted to continue services or disable some of those services. I think that TJ and his team have definitely erred on the side of caution to say, hey, let's keep these things open just in case. So.
Well, I like saving money.
Absolutely important. So if there's no other questions on that, then Nicole is here to talk about a defense indemnification request.
Good morning. The request is per the county's ordinance 0618 for requests of defense and indemnification, just requesting that those named defendants for approval from the board to defend and indemnify them against a claim we recently received. I also would like to make a request for authorization for the board for our council to sign a service waiver on behalf of the county as the named defendant as well.
Sounds good to me, commissioners.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Nicole, are you asking for this to go on tomorrow, or do you?
Correct. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, I have requested that it go on for tomorrow for approval.
Sounds good.
Yep. With me as well.
Thank you.
So that's all the official items that we had on our list. Do you guys, I don't have any other updates specifically. Do you guys have anything you'd like to talk with me about?
Not at this time. All right. Well, let's move on to commissioner discussion.
Thank you. So commissioners, just following up on what we talked about last week with the Medicaid exclusion letter to our congressional delegation. Huge thanks to Mackenzie for putting this together, and also hat tip to our friends at NACO for putting together a sample letter for us, and Mackenzie getting that all squared away. So this is the letter that I'd like to ask you to sign tomorrow.
100%.
Yep.
Great. Thank you much. That's all I have.
Yeah, this is so important. Appreciate you bringing this up and pushing it through. So thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, Commissioner Netherland, you have anything for us?
Nope.
All right. Well, then that takes us to Public Works.
Good morning.
Morning.
We have a couple of requested items to place on the action agenda, commissioners. And first up is an interlocal agreement between Public Works and Merriam Knight for some reimbursable work.
Good with me.
Yeah, that's
Hey.
good for me.
Yeah.
We
Sounds
even
good.
good.
Yeah, hats off to Pete and Kelly, and I believe Nicole had her hands in it, cleaning up some of our reimbursable standard agreement language and format. So we're getting everything back into normal operating procedures here, updating our rates and making it more flexible for what services we're able to provide under the agreements.
Loretta, wasn't it Miriam Knight that was asking for help when it came to some shoulder work?
No,
Pioneer?
no, yeah, no,
Pioneer?
not
This-
no,
Outside.
Right there, I thought it was Miriam Knight.
South side.
Southside
Oh,
School.
Southside. Okay.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I believe we did. Oh,
Everybody's always asking for help. What can I say?
that's right. That's right. Mike, did we do kind of some estimating for some parking lot improvements at one time for Miriam Knight? And then they purchased fuel from us, I believe.
Yeah, they were asking us to take a look at whether it'd be viable for them to have it chip seal, but in the end, they had a grant to pave the parking lot.
It turned out super nice. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it. A vast improvement over what it was before.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else on that particular item, commissioners?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Next up, Mike has a request to close a road and remove a culvert.
Yes, commissioners, we have a request for the board to authorize us to close the road of Beeville Loop Road between Beeville Road and Ford Road. There's a culvert here at milepost 5.19 that is failing. It's rusted, pitted, got holes, undermined, structurally compromised, about as bad as you can get. So we would like to close the road probably around September 21st is what we're looking at. We'd get a chance to get down there and remove that. The residents still have two ways in and out. This road only had 22 ADT, so there wasn't very many people using this section of the road anyway. We have done public outreach. We've sent mailers out to the residents in the area. We've not received any negative reports from anybody, so that's a good thing. But we're looking at pulling it out, and I think it is Trouts Unlimited is the outfit that has a grant to actually study this culvert to replace it or remove it and not replace it. You're looking at anywhere from $0 to just pulling it out to a couple $1 million to put a bridge in. So it's a redundant road. So we'll work with Trouts Unlimited and see what they come up with.
Are you looking to close it indefinitely?
That would be a possibility. Yes, that would be one of the. That's when they do the study. That would be one of the things they look at. Yes.
Well, when they do the study, but I thought you were asking for a closure.
Yes, I'm requesting a road closure until such times we can find some funding to do otherwise.
Commissioner Schutte, that's your district, right?
Yeah, and we briefed on this a few weeks ago, and I think the visuals that Mike provided, I don't think it's safe for driving. I think the pictures are pretty scary when you look at sort of just sort of the status of that culvert there. And so I'm interested to see what the study comes back at to suggest what next steps might be. But I think it's prudent to close the road and use the alternate route there.
Well, it's your district. If you're good with it, I'm good with it.
We don't want anybody to end up in Dry Bed Creek.
No.
No, we don't. Yep. I support.
Do you have those pictures handy, Michael, Loretta, that you could just pull up and?
Let's see, Dry Bed. Do you know where those are stashed, Mike?
Of course.
Of course.
It's a big old coat.
That's good. I don't know where they're stashed.
Let me check real quick here. E&C. And yeah, if you go J and then E and C, Civil 3D, then you go down to project Beeville Loop Road 5.19.
Okay.
Put your photographs there.
Let's see.
Civil 3D. And
All right. Pictures coming. Now I just need to find the right beautiful photo.
Yeah.
Well, I'll keep scrolling here, but in the meantime.
So Mike, this is gonna impact Green Diamond mostly?
Yeah, it's just Green Diamond's the only property owner adjacent to it, yes.
Okay.
And we've informed them and had had a meeting out on site with them.
We all talked to the post office and school district and fire district as well. Whoever's left at the fire district.
Yes, I believe we did, yes. I would imagine. I didn't actually send them out. The real bad thing about this is it's pitted all through there, and what happens is the water runs through it. It goes down through the holes and actually undermines, pulls the sand out from underneath the structure. So it's set up to fail this winter, and right now it's not because it's dry out there. But as soon as the water starts flowing through there again, it's just getting worse. Last winter it was significant.
We definitely want to keep our people safe.
Yeah. Well, that's the concern, is that it's just going to settle, and then it's structurally no longer, viable to hold weight itself. So it'll just crumble. Is what'll happen, and it'll be in the middle of the night.
Yeah, always, right?
Yeah, always. But
Thanks for looking for the pictures.
You bet. And if you're up in the office, you'll see remnants as wall art. Okay. So that's it in terms of our action items, commissioners. And then next up, wanted to share with you our rates for space and our ER&R rates. And I'll share screen real quick. I apologize that this was not part of the packet ahead of time. We were batting information back and forth with our CPA and had Jen and Mark take a look and review. And so we had to do a little revision based on Jen's review and comments on the space in particular. So this is taking a look at truing up our space allocations since 2020, and this affects our DEM and our utility funds. And you can see the results of that here. So ER&R's 2024 amount is around 130,000. Utilities and waste will be allocated amongst the utility funds, and that's around 11,000, and DEM right around $20,000. And you can see that in, for example, 23, DEM paid, well, and has been paying a steady amount of right around 13,400. Utilities and waste last year was 6687, 8,000 the prior year, 73. And then you can see the amounts that ER&R has paid. So ER&R and utilities and waste had been adjusted based on what we thought. DEM, we did not forward or prepare and present to the commission ahead of budget time. So we've been billing them the same amount for the past 3 years. So that's part of the purpose of today, is to share this and get your concurrence on the allocation for the space rental.
Okay, so just so I can be completely clear for myself what I'm looking at here. You've taken the whole space, you've broken out the going market rate for ER&R, utilities and emergency management.
Correct.
That's what I'm looking at. ER&R, is that a cost that you are putting to us or to your own ER&R?
To our own fund. Yeah,
Okay.
not your fleet.
Yeah, and then the waste, the utilities waste. So the only thing we're talking about is what we are talking about, not the only thing, is $4,000 increase over year to year for the space of what emergency management uses based on the increases regionally here for rental space per square foot.
Correct. That's for that includes the annual rate and some truing up from the prior years.
Now, is this for the number you're putting in for the 24 budget, or is this something you're looking for compensation with this year?
24 budget.
Looks accurate and good enough to me.
Yeah.
Mark, anything I'm missing or additions?
Not for me.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then let's see. And then a similar analysis, commissioners, for the ER&R rates were completed. And so this is the allocation for our utilities and solid waste funds. So up here you see the ER&R fund amount, and the 65,000 is our solid waste, I believe, allocation. Yes. And our utility allocation for 24 is $49,000. And again, the utility allocation across all of the utility funds. Any questions about that?
Not for me.
Me either.
Good.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. And then next up, Mike has the Coffee Creek, or excuse me, not Coffee Creek, Rock Creek Bridge report for you.
How do you make it bigger?
I think that's it, Mike. I think you're stuck.
That's it?
That's it.
That ain't gonna be much. Ryan. Didn't do anything either. You're gonna have to try it.
Oh, it's showing up full screen on ours.
I can't see it. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so last week we had a little project going, but and we wanted to make a little presentation about it. So this is 2023 Rock Creek Bridge repair. It's out on Coquitlam Road, milepost 5.85. This was designed, funded, and installed by county forces. A little history on it is original structure was built in 1952. It's an 18-foot span, timber slab deck with a concrete foundation. Just a note here that short span bridges are all under 20 feet and then do not qualify for federal funding. So this bridge was not ever going to be able to be qualified for federal funding. So what we had to do is think outside the box. How can we fix this bridge without incurring a lot of cost? So in 2022, it was discovered that the original bridge decking had been removed and replaced with a marine plywood covered with hot mix asphalt. It's kind of a hodgepodge of materials there. Well, what happens is water was being held between the plywood and the timber slab. And so rot was occurring, and this was going to reduce the carrying capacity. This is highly traveled with log trucks, so a lot of heavy loads going across this structure. So in January 2023, we came up with a design, and we looked at several different types of superstructures. One concrete, timber, metal, and we decided that the most economical and quickest to install would be a prefabricated metal superstructure. We went out to bid, got 3 bids, and True North Steel was the low bid for a $60,000 structure. This came from Colorado. Although I was dealing with the engineer from Texas, but the delivery date was supposed to be July 31st. So it's all in the prep. When you're looking at these things, you got to look at design, planning out your procedures, utility issues, overhead trees. We dealt with set up for the road closure. What equipment did we need? Materials, labor, permits, etc. So it's a lot of work ahead of time than just the week that it took to put the structure together. So on August 7th in 2023, it arrived. We were wanting it the week before so we could play with it a little bit and check it out, but it got pushed off until the date that we actually closed the road here. So first thing we did before we touched the other bridge is make sure we measured the new structure, that it was going to fit, reach across there, and everything, all the materials and bolts were there. So then we started removing the bridge. So this is the funnest part. The guys like this best is when they get to tear something up. So this is a timber slab bridge. What they did was choked it, and then when they pulled it, it actually just flopped over, slabbed up together, and came apart much easier than I was hoping. I was hoping it was going to be a little better shape than that, but guys did a good job with that. So then we get back to, now we're going to install the new structure. So first we had to lay out a template, which mechanics made ahead of time, so that would make it faster for us. We got a concrete drilling outfit that actually came in and drilled the 14 holes on the one side of the existing piers. That would pin one end of the bridge down, and we'd let the other end float as for heat and expansion and contraction. So here we are placing the new superstructure. That's Mike McGurven, the surveyor there, and road crew guys. Well, it was a collaborative effort. So then we had to rebuild the gravel approaches. So we're running our grader. Survey had laid out center line, blue topped it. We got that all ready. And then we actually started paving with our own paving crew. And the final product is this one. So we came in, replaced this span, and we did it in 4 days and repaved the road, about 300 feet of road, rebuilt it, raised it, rebuilt it, and paved it. And this is what we removed. So it was time.
Wow.
How long did that last, though?
In 1952.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. Some old timers, they put some stuff together because.
Oh yeah, this you see this rotted board here. The next one right adjacent to it with these types of slab bridges, the next one right adjacent to it could be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And everything. It's just it's kind of amazing what rots and what doesn't. The problem is when we put the plywood on, we put lag bolts down and multiple lag bolts down, and it looked like they were about every 6 to 9 inches. And what that does is let water intrusion from above, and that kind of signed its death warrant. Eventually was going to fail. So the thing is, we got it done ahead of time before we had to close the road or do any kind of detour or, you know, any kind of long-term closure. So being proactive really helped.
Yeah, great work.
Yeah, you guys
Yep,
do
agreed.
amazing.
You know, what's neat is looking at that is I know our staff is enjoying that too, though. They really are. They made that clear to me when we're meeting at North Mason on the food drives and stuff. They actually love that you have expanded their opportunities to learn and do new things that are not monotonous, and they walk away with their heads high and feel like they've really accomplished something special. That's a value you can't just put on with a dollar sign. Not to mention the guy from Crab, Loretta was there for that. You missed that one, Mike. We got all kinds of kudos on you and what you're doing. From what was the gentleman's title, Loretta?
Mike Clark.
Mike Clark.
Yeah.
He's watching you, Mike. He's watching you, and he wanted me to know, and all the stuff that you guys were doing. He just thinks it's amazing.
Awesome. Thank you.
This was a unique one in the sense that the alternative route for individuals out in that area added about, what did you say, 20 minutes?
Yeah,
15, 20 minutes. And so, you know, obviously impacted emergency response in the area. And so the fact that they had it, I actually had the opportunity to go out there with Loretta and watch our crew for a little bit, and super impressed with the coordination of all the work that was being done, so that, you know, they were ready for the next step before the next step was there. And I think that is clearly why they were able to demolish, set a new structure, pave it all within 4 days, which is pretty impressive. But the team worked really well together, and it was enjoyable to get to go out and see that. So thanks for sharing that with me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. All right. I see Richard's smiling face here. Smile. Yay. Richard's going to give a quickie update on an RFQ that we put out for the North Bay general plan update.
Yeah, so back in early June, you authorized me to put out a request for qualifications to update our general sewer facility plan for North Bay, which I appreciate and thank you for, because it hadn't been done since 1998. So we do have a bit of work to do, and we have a good approach figured out to work with the consultants. But I'll let you know, we had 2 respondents. One was on time, the other one was outside the time limit, so we couldn't count it. The good news, I guess, is that we're really familiar with the respondent that we did get. We've worked with them extensively in the past and are completely comfortable in their capabilities. So I'll give you a little bit of an approach on what we're going to do, or how at least I hope we get this done. But we needed to update basically the general information about the utility, as is condition assessment for everything, for the sewer system, the treatment plant, and that all are evaluate the capacities. We're going to recommend improvements to the sewer system to gain back capacities where we're losing them, if there's any bottlenecks to address. And we're going to actually address growth in concert with the current Mason County comprehensive plan. So we're trying to get all of our plans to be in sync with the rest of the county. And a bunch, yeah. Of course, we got to identify a good 20-year growth in concert with that, and then what is it going to take capital facility wise to achieve that capacity that is going to be needed, and to comply with what we see as future regulation issues, water quality challenges, and the like. So that we are going to be working out a contract. We'll come back to you and let you know what we got going with that. Any questions or comments?
No, it's good to get these things updated.
Absolutely.
One
Much
other update, it's a little off subject, but Russellwood, this Wednesday, we are going to be updating all of the electrical and control system work. Finally we're prepared. We got all the components in place. We're getting word out to the community. Homeowners Association's been notified. They're updating their reader boards and sending out emails and updating their Facebook page. So hopefully we get this done. Actually, just within 1 day, we should be able to do it. The contractor has been out and has been prepared and cleaned up what he can, and it should be pretty much plug and play.
And Richard, this is funded by the community grants from the legislature, correct?
That's right. That's right.
So that's awesome.
There you go.
I guess the other utility news is that we're inching closer, I believe, to about ready to excavate and do the boring up for the Belfair sewer extension. So we're closing all of the final details, and we'll keep you posted on that, commissioners.
That's exciting.
It is. I think that's all we have today.
All right, commissioners, anything for Loretta or her team?
Loretta, just to you and Mike, really appreciate the presentation today. I think seeing more of that is going to be really helpful. Being able to utilize county forces in that way it's great for the road crew. It's also a great representation of the taxpayers' dollars at work. And that we've made such an effort over the past few years to do more with our county forces is something I think we should all be really proud of. They're a great benefit to our community. So love seeing those progress reports.
Great, thank you.
And I think there's something that a lot of people don't really fully understand, that sometimes our road crew gets called out for accidents and things like that. So I wanted to thank your team also for being on call and being able to get out there and respond when needed.
Thank you.
All right. Well, it's awful quiet here on this side, so I'm thinking that we're finished with public work.
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Oh wait, can I bring up one more thing?
No,
Madam Chair, you're the chair.
We've already moved to adjourn.
Yeah, oh, that's right.
I withdraw my motion to adjourn.
Thank you. So in going over my calendar in the future, I went through and I was looking at it and sent my list to Mackenzie, and she was so kind to send me back some clarifying questions. So October 23rd and October 24th, I will be, or that entire week, I'll be in Wenatchee for an IACC meeting and a Public Works Board meeting. IACC is Infrastructure Assistance Coordinating Council, but we do have a briefing and a regular meeting. And then also November 13th is the WASAC conference up in Spokane. So wondering if you guys wanted to take a look at your calendars. We can talk about it next time, or see if we want to move them to the next day or next week.
Yeah,
not the next day, but
Yeah, on my calendar, I know that if you remember the week before that, I will be gone for my birthday and stuff. So I know that I can't do the week before, but and do the week after. Or
Maybe-
how do we want to do it?
Yeah, because I definitely have some upcoming dates as well. So let me take a look, and I gave some to Mackenzie already, but let me dig a little bit deeper for October and November, and we can maybe come back together next week and talk about how we want to approach things.
Well, and another option is something we've done in the past too, is make a light schedule for the time if one commissioner can't show. So that nothing that we're really needed to be there ever comes before us without us.
Right, right. Yeah. All right. Sounds like a plan. So maybe we can continue this conversation next week.
Great. Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So there's still a motion and a second on the floor because you can't remove a motion after it's been seconded. It's owned by the body. So
Aye.
Aye. See y'all tomorrow.